Hi, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today. I know that this is a hot topic, talking about meltdowns in children. I think that, especially in today's society, there are so many different ideas out there as far as for what is the best way to manage behaviors and to parent your child. Whether to be, the strict parent, or whether with permissive parenting, or, setting boundaries, or helping with independence. So many people have different opinions on what is right and what is wrong. And I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to tell you what's right and what's wrong. What I am here to do is to just talk about a topic that I think that a lot of parents are struggling with today, and that is how to manage those strong emotions. Because I know that sometimes the crying and the screaming and the constant meltdowns that where you might experience from your child, no matter what the age, I know that it can be so overwhelming, and that you might just want to pull your hair out. And I know that sometimes you might just want to sit down and cry with them, because I've been there and I understand that. Sometimes you find that if you go to the bathroom and shower and cry, because that's the only place that no one is going to follow you, and that it's a lot. And sometimes we need that. We need that as mothers. We need to be able to have that release. But the problem is that it's great to be able to have that release, to be able to find a place to go and let our emotions out. But it doesn't always necessarily stop the meltdowns and to stop the crying once we're done with our crying. And I understand that the problem is that the opposition, the fighting, the daily crying and screaming, every little thing sometimes that shouldn't be that big of a deal becomes a big deal. And it gets so drawn out and made into this huge issue that you don't even know what to do about at that point. And you might even find yourself asking, where did that come from? There's no reason why this little thing turned into something this big that your child's not able to manage. And I'm here to tell you that sometimes these emotions might actually have another cause. A lot of times we're told it's just, it might be, the child's behavior. We need to set stronger boundaries. We need to set stronger limits. You might even been blamed that the problem is your parenting skills. I'm here to tell you that sometimes it goes much deeper than that, and that you're not the problem, and that your child's not the problem. But the problem is that your child is managing some really strong emotions that they don't really know how to manage on their own, and that you might not realize that some of those behaviors that you're seeing are in fact signs that there's something going on with their nervous system, that they're not really able to manage or regulate themselves, and so it's manifesting in behaviors. And so I decided to put this training together to just give parents some ideas and some strategies, so that they have a better idea on what's going on, and that they might know, have a better idea on how they can help their child a little bit better. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And let me introduce myself. My name is Kathleen Yap. I'm a pediatric occupational therapist. I own Helping Hands Therapy Services in Virginia Beach. I have been a therapist for over 25 years, and I've been in private practice for about 12 years as well. And a big part of what I do for a living is work with families and children that have emotional regulation difficulties, that have a hard time with managing their emotions, and also helping the parents for them to be able to recognize where those behaviors might be coming from and what they can do to manage those a little bit better. And so my goal for you in this is for you to have a better idea on how to recognize some of these behaviors, and what might be a behavior and what might actually be due to just the child's inability to regulate their nervous system, because sometimes they are kind of intertwined. And so that the behaviors are stemming from signs of anxiety, or signs of fear, or going into fight or flight, or those. So the behaviors might be triggering that, and then also those emotions might also be triggering the behaviors. And so we're going to just, my goal for you to just today is to get a better understanding of how to recognize it, and then to give you some ideas on what you're supposed to do with it once you do recognize it. So if you stay to the end, I'll make sure that you get one of our little trainings that we've done on giving you some ideas on how to help with regulating and resetting the nervous system. So that's a little bit about me. And so I kind of wanted to say, why am I presenting on this? What qualifies me? Well, I'm a parent. I'm a parent of twin teenagers, twin 14-year-olds, and I'd like to say that I've done a lot of things right, and I've also done a lot of things wrong. And I went down this rabbit hole of emotional regulation just after dealing with my own kids and realizing that when we were having these behaviors that were just kind of coming out of nowhere. And I do this for a living, and the strategies that we were using, that I was using for limit setting and redirecting behaviors, and I still go to them even today, and I realize, oh, this is not working. But you know, it wasn't working. It wasn't working for me. It wasn't working for my kids, and I really kind of had to sit back and kind of ask myself, you know, why isn't this working? Because this, if it's just a behavior, then this should work. And so I started going down the rabbit hole of, you know, understanding, you know, some of the other contributing factors to emotional regulation, and nervous system, and some of the different triggers, and getting a deeper understanding of what that really looks like with emotional regulation, and that, you know, understanding that that opposition might not actually be true opposition. It might actually be a safety mechanism, you know, because my child's suffering with anxiety. So I discovered this the hard way, because I really was at my point where we were having these meltdowns day after day after day, and the screaming and the crying and the yelling, and I felt like a terrible mother. I didn't really know what to do. My kids were angry and they were emotional, and we were having a lot of outbursts, and everyone, you know, when I was seeking, you know, help, everyone just kept telling me it's just, you know, it's just behaviors, it's just they're dealing with transitions, and we just had to push through it. And the more I pushed, the worse it got, and I had to start to research a little bit more on other things that could be going on, and I was pointed in the direction of you know, some of the things we're going to talk about as far as for nervous system regulation and polyvagal theory. You might have heard that. We're not going to really get into that today, but nervous system regulation using vagusnerve, which is, you know, the vagus nerve controls a lot of the different automatic functions in our body, like heart rate and breathing and swallowing and our responses, but also sleep and digestion and all of those things that we, you know, don't really have any control over because they happen on an automatic process. So I was put in the direction to start learning about that, and it was so eye-opening. And so I started teaching my kids the strategies and really trying to get to the bottom of what was going on for them. And things started to change, and they started to change for the better. I started to teach them strategies and help them to be more aware of those, you know, internal body systems in their body, so that they could recognize what was going on in them, to help them to be more aware, and to give them the tools to empower them so that they could be able to calm their systems down. And I also learned that during all this, that I had to really take care of myself. And, you know, they say self-care, you know, is really important when you're a parent. And this isn't about self-care. That's not what this is about. This is about understanding that if I'm not regulated, I'm going to constantly trigger my kids. And I really have to try so much harder to keep myself grounded and to keep myself calm, because the energy that I produce is going to have a direct effect on my kids and their responses. And so it's really easy for me to get triggered if somebody is yelling and screaming, especially if they're yelling and screaming at you because they're upset. It's really easy for us to be reactive. It takes a lot more work and self-control to kind of stay calm and to really remember, what is it that I'm supposed to do? Because we are going to respond automatically. And that's why we have to really help to make sure that we make these responses automatic responses, for us so that we can stay grounded and that our brains and our bodies know what to do when we're getting upset. So that's a little bit about me. Those are the things that I did that worked. I'll tell you some of the things that didn't work for me was that, I'm not saying don't set limits, because I think limits are really important. Kids need limits, they need boundaries, they need structure. But when they pushed, I pushed harder. And that just because understanding where they were coming from, that pushing harder was really sending one of my kids into spiral to shut down even further. And then I couldn't pull them out. And so sometimes pushing is not necessarily what we need to do. The other thing that I would do is I would yell, I would scream, I would bribe, I would try to do really anything because I need to get some compliance, especially if, hey, we have to get out the door. And I understand that you don't want to get dressed. And I understand that you're frustrated because you didn't do A, B, C, D, but we have to leave. Whereas if I just took time to really listen and understand where my kids were coming from, I would have had we might not have spiraled the way that we did. And so I really had to learn a little bit about really understanding and listening to what my kids are saying, not the words that they're saying, but the meaning behind it, because what they're saying and what that meaning is, they're not always the same. So they might be saying that they're mad about A, B, C, D, but the reality of it is that they're feeling anxious and they're feeling insecure about themselves, or they're feeling frustrated, and they don't really know how to manage that, and that's going to manifest as defiance and opposition. And so I wanted to just be able to, we're going to talk a little bit about, how to recognize some of those different things. And then I think that one of the other things that people don't always realize is that we really need to, in order for us to have effective change, we actually really do have to change the brain and change the way that we're responding. And so that takes a little bit of work on our part to really kind of teach ourselves to respond differently. So we're going to just kind of go over an overview. These are a lot of things that I have done in my practice. After I started learning with my kids, I really decided to take this to my practice because I really felt very strongly that there's a lot of parents that are in the same boat that I was, and they don't really know what to do, and they're taking their kids to therapy, and they're taking them to counseling, and they're putting them on medication, and nothing's working. And they might even be faced with inpatient, psychiatric placement, or sending their kids to, a boarding school, or, a special needs school, because they really don't know what else to do. And so I really want to be able to give you the tools so that you don't feel so hopeless. And so I want to empower families, and I want to give them some, really some basic strategies and understanding of things to help you to know it's not hopeless, and we can make a difference and we can help, but it starts at the nervous system level. So that's what we're going to be talking about. So we're going to kind of go through, I'm going to give you my disclaimer, and we're going to go over that as well. Okay, so first I'm going to go over my disclaimer. And so I just need to tell you that the information in this little mini training is provided as a public service announcement. It's a public service training. It is for informational and educational purposes only. It should not be construed as medical advice. Even though I am a therapist, I am not your child's therapist. And so I can't be saying that you should do this for your child because I've never seen your child. The idea behind it is that I am just giving you as a parent ideas and things that have been proven to work with other children. And so, but I can't say that it's definitely going to work with your child. Every child's medical, sensory, and emotional needs are different. And so therefore, really you should be consulting with a licensed healthcare professional or your doctor before starting any kind of home program or counseling program or, sensory program. So, and although every effort is made to make sure that the information I'm telling you is up to date and accurate, it is provided for the convenience of you and should not be considered definitive. And so remember that all strategies really do need to be individualized because every kid is so different and the results are going to vary. I can tell you that these strategies really do make a difference, but I can't say that you're going to see differences overnight, right? And so improvements are not guaranteed, and they typically, it's going to take time for you to be able to see results. So those are my disclaimers. And again, like I said, I do know that parents, when they've done and implemented some of these, they do see immediate results. And so because it's just changing just a couple of different things and helping to really reconnect with your child. But again, we can't say, I can't say, make you a promise that says, oh my gosh, if you do this, your child's definitely going to be demonstrating, A, B, C, D for their behavior. So just wanted to clarify that. As far as for disclosure, I am, like I said, the owner of Helping Hands Therapy Services. I am paid a salary. I do have a course and some private coaching where I do work with families, one-on-one on these topics, because they can be really overwhelming and confusing. As far as, because then I'm just going to be presenting you just some basic ideas to kind of help you to kind of know where to get started with things. And so, but for those families that, they're like, okay, I don't really know what to do with this, where do I get started? I do have individual courses, and I do have courses for therapists, and I do have, private coaching that I do both with families and with therapists as well, to help them with getting started. So those are my financial disclosures, and so just so that everyone is aware. And I don't have any other relevant non-financial relationships. I am trained in the Safe and Sound protocol, where I do see clients for that as well, and I do have some certifications in some other, like interactive metronome. And I've taken several other courses as far as for, I have a bio-individual nutrition certification, and I am a certified occupational therapist, and I'm licensed to practice in the state of Virginia where I live. So again, those are my disclosures. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about, some of those different courses later on at the very end. I'll give you opportunity if you want more information on how to implement some of these strategies. I will go over those at the very end of this little mini training. So first, we're just going to kind of talk about, 3 secrets that I have kind of learned, not really secrets, but 3 tips that I've kind of learned throughout this process of learning a little bit more about emotional regulation. And so I really want to kind of share them. And I say they're secrets because they're not really known to most people. And I was actually working with a parent the other day, and as I was going through these list of some of these, it really was a little bit of an aha moment, because as much as I do these, I have them fill out the forms, but I was actually doing this form online with them, and so I was reading it to them. And so the first tip is that we really need to recognize that the behaviors that we're seeing might not really be behaviors, but really are signs that the nervous system is not functioning the way that it needs to be, and it could be either overloaded or shutting down. And so, and again, like I said, I have parents fill out these forms out all the time. I have kids fill out these forms all the time. But as I was reading them, it really made me do a little bit of a check for myself, kind of like, this is kind of where my nervous system is right now. I might need to work on this a little bit as I'm dealing with my children, because, I get frustrated with them, and it was just kind of very convicting as I read through them when I'm asking her, do you experience this, yes or no? And I was like, oh, I'm experiencing that, I'm experiencing that, I'm experiencing that. So the behaviors that you might see, that they're behaviors, but they really can indicate that there is something more going on with the nervous system. And those behaviors might be, anxiety, or, feeling anxious, agitation, restlessness, tension, like being really tense and rigid, irritability, rage, rigid in that non-flexible, like not so much like rigid, like, tense in the body, but rigid in thinking, not flexible, rigid in schedule, where you really can't deviate. And if you are going to deviate, your kid melts down, right? And so just being very uptight and stressed and just on edge about every little thing. very, very, very reactive. Those are signs, again, that the nervous system is becoming dysregulated. Impulsivity, hypervigilance, just, I was just having a conversation with my child about this the other day, where it's just, what I do, what I do, what I do wrong now, what I do, what I do. And I just said, hey, do you have a minute that I could talk to you for a second? That's all I said. And it is followed by, what did I do? And so just, extreme defensiveness, and just, but the hypervigilant, just being on the watch. Are they mad? They're mad. They're mad. What am I doing to make them mad? And so to the point where it becomes a little bit more almost obsessive. And it goes along the same line with, like, consumed with just the intrusive thoughts of perseverative thoughts and intrusive thoughts. So those intrusive thoughts might be, something bad is going to happen, or even just wanting to hurt themselves. But it could also be where they're perseverating, where the same story and thought just goes over in their head over and over and over and over again. Physical symptoms might be where the heart is racing. They're feeling, where their heart is just beating really, really fast. Rapid breathing, where the breathing, because if your heart rate goes up, so is your breathing, and you're unable to focus, unable to sit still, and just, signs of extreme stress. You might also see loss of patience, panic attacks, overreactiveness responses. Just, again, like I said, just, you might just see, like, okay, you just literally dropped that pen, and that's all that happened. We didn't really need to melt down over that. But the fact that they dropped the pen, their whole world has just completely spiraled. And you're like, it's a pen. And you're not really quite sure, like, why are you reacting that way? And our response, I know my response sometimes is like, seriously, just, knock it off. It's okay. But really, it's not okay to them. It's not okay. And they're not really sure why they are reacting the way that they are. And again, like I said, you might have frequent outbursts of anger, yelling, screaming, even throwing things. And so just, that more agitated, violent, aggressive, angry behavior. Impulsive decisions, impulsivity, not really thinking, or just an inability to even make rational decisions. Use of loud voice, where they're getting, louder and louder and louder and louder and louder, and they're not even aware. They might start blurting out, just yelling, profanities, name calling, accusations, fidgety, constant motion, just not able to sit still, and just really quickly becoming frustrated, just like the fuse is just really, really short. Other symptoms that you might see are more along the lines of, like, the autonomic functions, and so that might be things like where you're having overstimulation as far as for sensory input, so really reactive to, like, smells, sounds, especially sounds when we're in that fight or flight. We get where, oh my gosh, like, the sound of you talking is enough. You're yelling at me. Well, I'm really whispering, so I'm really not. That's just going to set them off. Sounds of different things, like, chewing. Kids tend to, when my kids were in that, oh my gosh, can you chew quieter, or can you not make so much noise with your mouth? So just an inability to tolerate, sounds or movement or any really kind of sensory input you might see. And you might, again, like, start to see some digestive issues. So these are some of the behaviors that you might see in the fight or flight. Okay, and so those behaviors that we were talking about are really this first sign of where the nervous system is getting overwhelmed and overstimulated. And so we call that, fight or flight. And so the next phase that you might see sometimes with some of the behaviors are what happens afterwards, and that's kind of where we're going into shutdown. And so that is, you might see just, again, like, zoning out, withdrawing, just complete, like, withdrawing from the world, withdrawing from connection, not really having any kind of interest in participating in activities, kind of hiding or shrinking, just wanting to curl under a blanket, under the bed, wanting to go and hide, just really kind of escape from the world. We as parents might feel like that sometimes too when we get overwhelmed and stressed. I know for me, I was kind of like, yeah, I feel this way a lot when I'm dealing with my kids, and I get really upset, and once I feel stressed, I go here. Because this is the way my body is also, it's starting to shut down as a response for dealing with the stress. you might see with your kid or even with you, where you're letting others, speak up, and you're not really able to verbalize what it is that you want. So you're letting others, take control for you. You might be averting eye contact, averting conversation, really kind of just trying to disengage completely, socially isolating, not really wanting to talk to people, play with people, really kind of engage in any activity that's pleasurable. It really can almost mirror depression in a way, because, again, I mean, it is, but it's not necessarily that it is depression. It is, but just that's where the body is then going into that shutdown phase. A sudden avoidance of really, don't touch me, leave me alone. I don't really want you near me. I don't want you in my space. I don't want you talking to me. Just kind of like, crouch posture, really just kind of like withdrawing and, withdrawing from the world, getting really tired and just feeling extreme fatigue. Again, like we're going to see this after you're having like that stressed state where you're having, because those first behaviors are what we would see when we're going into, fight or flight, in response to a trigger. And so when all of a sudden we become stressed, and as we then have dealt with the stress, then we're going to go into shutdown. And so I know after I'm dealing with a whole lot of stress, I get fuzzy with my brain, and I'm like, oh my God, I can't even hear what you're saying. Everything, I just feel like I'm living in a bubble, and I can't process. I can't hear what you're saying. I have no idea what you said, or I heard you, but I can't process those directions at all, to even be able to think. And then I just am stuck. I'm like, I don't really know. I can't make a decision. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do next. And then all I want to do is I just feel extreme fatigue just come over me, to the point where I just want to go and lay down. And that's from all those stress hormones that have just got dumped, and your body needs to recover from that. And so you're kind of seeing this happen, in response to it. And so those are the two extremes that you really kind of see with some of those behaviors, from like signs of like overload to signs to like overwhelm and withdrawal, and shutdown. And so, and these are, again, like what we would, they're behaviors that we see or we experience and things that we feel, but it's just really understanding that it really might be more due to that, again, that nervous system regulation. And the problem is that, we all go there. We all go to, I'm going to get mad and angry and get mad in a second. And so when I'm going to like, oh my God, I just need to rest for a minute. I just need to kind of reset. But the problem is that when this is happening over and over and over again, our kids get stuck, or we get stuck. And then we don't know how to come out of it. And that's where the problem lays. And so what happens then is then you just continue to have, instead of getting to a place of like calmness, where you're able to really kind of engage, you're just having these same problems over and over and over and over again. So it just becomes a vicious cycle, and then you get stuck. And so until we really learn how do you get unstuck? How do you not continue to react the same way? Well, the brain it's wired, right? And so it's going to wire that I'm going to respond. If this happens, I'm going to respond this way. If this happens, I'm going to respond that way. It's going to continue to have the same responses over and over and over again until we really retrain it to respond differently. And we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. And so, but it does, it becomes a really vicious cycle. And so you're not really able to stop it until you do what I call the next tip, is that you really need to learn what those triggers are, because we really can't create new patterns and new responses if you don't even know what it is that's being triggered. Now, sometimes it might be that you're in that constant fight or flight that just like, oh my gosh, everything really seems to be triggering me. And so you might feel like, I don't really need to know what the triggers are, because it doesn't really matter at that point. And that's true, because when you are at that point, when you're in that vicious cycle, it doesn't really matter, because you're in overload. But the idea is that once you do come out of that overload place, that you should be able to come back to a place of calmness. And so, but again, like if you're getting triggered by those same things over and over again, we're going to just repeat the cycle. And so, along with that, with understanding what the triggers are, so we need to develop coping strategies for those. So we develop coping strategies to help with resetting the nervous system, so that we can deal with those, and so that they don't cause us to become so overwhelmed. But we also need to widen that threshold, because I call it like, how big is your cup? Because if your cup is only like this big, right? Right? Just tiny, tiny little cup, I'm not going to be able to handle a whole lot of stress. And so my cup is full and I'm overloaded, and it just takes a tiny little drop of something and I'm going to explode, right? And so I'm going to totally explode. Whereas if my cup is bigger, right, it's wider, right, I have more space. So if I have more space, I can handle more stress. And so something that is not so, like dropping the pen, isn't going to send me through the roof. It's not going to send me over the edge. Whereas if you're all overloaded and you're like at the very top and your cup's just like this big, dropping the pen, you're right, it is. That's going to send you off because it's one more thing that you can't handle. So we have to learn how to widen or expand the threshold so that we can tolerate more stress. And that's huge because we can't avoid stress. It happens. And a lot of these things we experience, they're normal experiences, but the problem is when we get stuck there. We get stuck there and the circle just continues and the vicious cycle just keeps happening and happening and happening and happening, and you don't know how to pull yourself out of it. And that's where that third tip comes in handy that I've learned, is that you have to rewire the brain. You are literally going to have to teach the brain to have different responses. And so if you get triggered, all the time by somebody saying certain word or certain phrase, and it triggers you all the time, right? You have to really learn how to retrain your brain to not get so triggered by those responses. And so there's different ways of doing it. Brain rewiring, patterns, cognitive behavior therapy. There's a lot of different strategies that you can do with help with rewiring the brain. But we do need to train the brain to have different responses. And so I personally, we do a lot of brain rewiring in my therapy sessions. And so we take a hold of what those thoughts are, and we train the brain to have a different response to what those triggers are. I know some counselors, people when they're going for therapy, they will train to, not even acknowledge, or, teach the body to, that's not a true response, or that trigger, that's a false fact. And so to try to teach the brain so that they're not having the same reactions because it's not true. Whereas, again, like I'm a proponent of, the body's experiencing it and it's feeling a certain way in response to those triggers. And so we want to acknowledge it, but we want to change the responses so that it doesn't have the same emotion associated with it. And again, that does take time, but we can very quickly develop some resistance to that and some strategies. And again, this is a matter of rewiring the brain and creating new neural pathways, which are basically in the brain pathways, so that the brain is like, oh, this doesn't bother me anymore. So instead of reacting like this, I'm going to react like this. And it might be that, the brain starts to, automatically start using some calming strategies, or that you'll start to use the strategies that we've taught for coping strategies so that you don't get so overwhelmed. Those are some of the things that you can be doing as well. So that is what I call for the 3 tips that I've learned in my practice, and that we really focus on trying to help families when we're dealing with some of these different things. So there's lots of different ways that you can be implementing these strategies. And again, different practitioners are going to have different strategies and different ways that they go about it. So I know we covered a whole lot of information. Well, I felt like it was a lot of information in this past 30-minute training. And so, and again, this is just an overview of some of the different things to give you an idea and to give you a little bit of hope of knowing that it doesn't have to be that way. And so, you might be kind of saying to yourself, yeah, that's me, or that's my kid. What do I do with this information? I understand what you're saying, but I don't really know how to go about getting started with being able to help my child. Well, I can't cover all that in a short training, an hour-long training, 45-minute training. We can't go over all of that because really these are skills that they do build off of each other. So we start small and we have to build, and again, everything is really individualized depending on your specific child and the needs and what it is that you're experiencing. So I do have, like I said, I do have a training that does go through and we break down the different scenarios, and then we have coaching that kind of goes along with that. So you have to kind of ask yourself, is this something that I am ready, I'm ready to make changes. I'm ready to make changes for my family. I'm ready to make changes in me, because I do really feel like, as much as we need to help our kids with getting through some of these, we as parents, we need to use these strategies as well. We need to feel empowered. We need to, get our nervous systems better in check so that we can be there for our kids, so that we can improve the connection. Because right now, when you're in fight or flight and the kids are in fight or flight, there's no relationship there. There's none. And so because it's the constant fight, and it's a lot of tension, it's a lot of drama, it's a lot of stress, and nobody's happy when that's all going on. And so if you are ready to eliminate the strife, we can help with starting helping you as the parent learn how to regulate your nervous system. And as you learn how to regulate your nervous system, you'll be able to better help your child with regulating your nervous system. So if you feel that you want to go a little bit of a step further, I'm happy to share a little bit about the program and what that looks like and what those costs are. So we're going to talk about that now. So for those of you that, are ready to jump in and make a difference and start helping yourselves and helping your kids, I'm thrilled to be able to share this wonderful program that we have created for you. So, I think that it's a pretty awesome deal on what we've created, because to me, I think that the trainings are great, but again, like I said, I feel like we parents need to have a little bit of one-on-one. We want to make sure that it's catered, and so that way how to implement this with your child, because I can give you all the information, but if you really don't know what to do with it or where to get started, you really want to be able to have somebody that is there working one-on-one with you. And so we're going to kind of go through all the different things that I have kind of created so that we can kind of see all that you're going to get if you decide to opt into for this program. So I have a mini training on, it's called an emotional reset training, and I think it's a pretty great training for some very simple strategies you can easily implement, and you would get that free with it, and that's a value of $97. You're going to get access to my vagus nerve course training that I created for parents as part of our master course, and that value is $247. And so then I also have created some sound healing frequencies that you'll be able to get for download, and so I have specifically picked out certain ones, and we can pick one that's specific for your child and what it is that you're needing. If you're struggling with sleep, or if you're struggling with impulsive behavior, attention, stress, anxiety, and just like resetting, trying to get that sense of calm, sound healing is amazing. And so I will throw that in as well, and that's a $97 value. I have created an ebook download for stress elimination, specifically for parents, so that way you have some tools in your pocket so that you can really help yourself with eliminating stress. And again, that's a $97 value. We have some ebooks called Calm the Chaos, and another one on stress reduction, and those values are $47 and $27 value. I have a whole emotional regulation toolbox, which is a whole set of different workbooks and strategies and worksheets specifically, so that way you can pick out and pull for your child. It has some really nice visuals as far as for calming strategies to help them if they're not really sure what to do when they need to calm down. It has some really nice pictures for that, and also just worksheets for helping them to be able to identify those emotions that we talked about and where they feel it in their body, because that is huge. A lot of kids really don't understand how to do that. So Again, that's a $197 value. And then we have the emotion and feeling workbook that I created. And so those are also some worksheets to really help them to be able to identify, what those emotions are and what that looks like. And so those, again, that's another $47 value. Plus, you would also get some monthly coaching calls and, one-on-one, and also in our Zoom sessions. And so all that value is $1,297. And this is for our group training. So if you decided that, hey, I really am ready to do that total value right there, all of those packages, $1,297. So next, I really want to kind of talk about like, who has this worked for? So that way you're kind of like, well, I don't really know. Is that for me? Am I going to benefit from that? Well, let me just tell you some of the different things that parents that have taken it, what they've said. So they said that it really gave them a very good background and continued step-by-step process of the interventions of what they needed to do to really be able to know where to get started and how to help their child. And another parent that said that they gained so much insight about how they can implement some of these techniques, at home for them, for themselves, as well as their own children. And then we also had parents that really felt that the worksheets that we created, they said that those were extremely helpful, and that the kids really definitely benefit from them and gave them a better understanding as they were completing them. So these are just, these are parents that have been using them and been able to integrate some of these different techniques based on the strategies that we have discussed here today. When I was the parent that was going through it, I had two choices. I could either keep going the way that we were going, or I could invest in a program that was going to help me be able to help my kids and help myself a little bit better. And I decided to go with the second option. I mean, the first option was, again, I could poke around the internet. It was pretty much free. I was buying some of the different resources, going to counseling, paying for those. It was cheap. It seemed to work okay, but I wasn't really getting anywhere. Second choice, it required more investment. It required financial investment, and it required time. But again, I got the resources that I needed to be able to help myself and to be able to help my family. So you kind of have to ask yourself that same question. What do you want to get out of this? How do you want to be able to better help you and your child and your family? You could do it cheaply and research all this stuff on your own and keep doing what you're doing over and over again, staying on the same hamster wheel. Or you could go with the second option, which does require a little bit more investment. It does require more time that you are investing in it, but I can really guarantee that I'm devoting resources that I know will make a difference. They have to, because it's what our kids need. And so I can pretty much guarantee that you will see some improvements if you use some of the strategies that I can give you. And I'm going to just give you one of the testimonials that we do have from one of the parents. She had said that as a parent of a child who struggles to regulate his powerful emotions, working with Kathy was a game changer. And because of her program, I now have effective tools that I can use to empower my son and others around me to take back control and to experience self-regulation like never before. Absolutely life-changing. So, again, just want to ask you, are you ready to take those life-changing steps towards making a difference? And so I'm going to go over again, all the different things that you'll get. And so, because we do have lots of things that I tried to put in there that I feel like will benefit you. So, with this program, you're going to get the emotional reset training, $97 value. You're going to get the vagusnerve master course training, which is a value of $247. You're going to get the sound healing frequency download value of $97. You're going to get the stress elimination blueprint, $97. You're going to get the ebook download for stress, which is $47, and the Calm Chaos ebook for $27. And you're going to get my emotional regulation toolbox, which I have poured a lot of time and effort into creating those worksheets. I think they're pretty amazing. You know, and if you bought them separately, all the different things that I'm throwing in there for that, those, you know, a value is $197. And then I have the emotion and feelings workbook that I created, which again is $47 value. And then I'm going to add these bonuses. And so again, the total value of that package is $1,297. But the bonus that you're going to get, pretty cool, you would get monthly coaching calls with me. And so how awesome is that? And so I'm doing that either by Zoom or email, you know, just making sure that we are getting on, you know, making sure that you're having that opportunity to ask those questions, because again, I really do feel like we want to make sure that this is individualized. And so I am doing a free 30-minute consult, you know, with families that are signing up for this package, so that way we can really try to help make sure that we're getting you started, you know, on the right path. And so, and then monthly coaching calls, more than likely that'll be either by Zoom is how we're probably going to do those. And so, and then the other bonus is that we are, I am creating these other workshop, this other community where I'm going to be putting tons of other resources and free videos. And so you're going to get access to all of those, which again, that's about another $297 value. So $297 for the coaching call, another $297 value for all the videos and trainings that I'm putting in there that you'll have access to if you're signing up for this program. So I do want to mention that I do run a full-time therapy practice, and so I am pretty busy with the families that I'm already working with. And so that's why for the coaching call, the coaching calls bonus, I am limiting that to the first 20 people that sign up for this program, because I just don't have time in my schedule to be able to take on any more than that. And so for the first 20 people that sign up for this program, they will get a free coaching call and the free Zoom call, monthly coaching calls with me on for 3 months, actually, is how we're doing this program for the coaching calls. And so again, we're limiting that to the first 20 people that are signing up for that. So again, all of that we just talked about comes down to a total for $1,891 value is what I'm offering for part of the program. And so I need to kind of ask you this. So I know that seems like that might be a whole lot of money to invest in a program, but I want you to ask yourself this. If all this program did was to help you get a better understanding of your child and why they're having the meltdowns and extreme emotions that they were, would it be worth it? If all this program did was give you just 1 or 2 strategies to help you to be able to change the way that you're responding yourself to your child, to help you to stay grounded so that you didn't lose it when they're totally flipping out and crying and screaming, so that you didn't feel like you had to go run to the bathroom to cry because you're just trying everything that you can to hold it together. If it made it so that you were able to cope and you were able to stay regulated, would it be worth it? If it helped you be able to make just one change in your child's behavior, that they weren't losing it every time, you know, they reacted to this, and they're able to stay calm, so that homework, let's just say homework wasn't a struggle anymore, or going to school, or, you know, whatever that transition was, and they were able to tolerate that, would it be worth it? So then I want you to ask yourself, what is it worth to you? What is it worth to you to make a difference in your life and your child's life, to make things a little bit easier, to stop the vicious cycles from happening over and over and over again? What's it worth? 1,000? 2,000? 5,000? 10,000? How much would you pay to be able to get just a little bit of relief and to feel that you're empowered and that your child's empowered? What's it worth? I mean, I charge, families pay me when I'm working one-on-one with them. If they're self-paying, I'm charging $225 an hour when I'm working with my families. So, and with this program, it's definitely more, you're getting more than that. So again, just what's it worth to you? What is it worth to get a little bit of your life back, to get a little bit more time back? I know when I was a parent going through it, I had to grieve for a while because I felt like I lost so much time. I felt like a part of my kid's childhood was stolen from me, because I just spent so much time trying to figure out what to do, and I lost it. And you can't get time back. You can't get time back. So what would it be worth to you to be able to save time, to save your relationship, to save your sanity, and to save your child's emotions, to help them, because the older they get, the harder it gets? What would it be worth to you? So you can see why, it's a pretty good deal. Like, just about, $2,000. It's a pretty good deal for all the different things that you're getting. But because you're special, because I'm a parent that's gone through it, and I just love helping families, and you're special to me, and your kids are special to me, and I want to be able to give you tools to be able to help you all. I'm giving this training away, all of this, for a limited time for $379. Again, just $379. And so, and you're going to find that, like, I'm constantly giving, more bonuses and different things, and, more trainings to be able to, better equip families. So if you get started now for just $397 for the course, the training, the coaching, the package, all of this, and I'll give you the website where you can sign up on it. It's limited on how many people that I'm accepting, but for a limited time. So, and again, just remember, if you have two choices, right? First option, do nothing, right? Doesn't cost anything. You're going to be in the same boat where you're at now, but you're not losing anything. You've gained some information, I hope, that you can take with you to make a difference with what we have. But again, you might really not know how to implement it, so you might get stuck. But the second option is to make the investment and be determined, no, I'm going to stop the cycle now. The cycle stops. I'm going to make the difference. I'm going to help myself to get regulated, and I'm going to learn to get a better understanding to help my child to get regulated. So those are your options. If you decide to go with option B, the second option, and take the training, get some coaching calls with me, then I am offering a 30-day guarantee. So you sign up today. If you don't like it for any reason, within the first 30 days, right, I'll refund you. Okay? So even if it's up to day 29, 23 hours and 53 minutes, I'll give you your money back. I feel that strongly in this program and what we're doing, that it can make a difference. For families that you're kind of like, I don't want a training, I don't want a video, I want to work one-on-one. Well, reach out to me, because I work one-on-one with families as well. And depending on what your needs are, I can set up something so that we can make sure that we're working one-on-one for you, and I can do a consult with you to make sure that we're developing something very specific to your child beyond the 30-minute consult that I would be doing for purchasing that. So again, I'm here. You can sign up. I'm going to give you the website below, or you can reach out. You can send me an email at kathleen.yap@helpinghandstherapyservices.com, and you can sign up on our website as well, and I will be sending you the link and be posting it, and just sign up for the training and for the course, and I'll make sure that you get all the added goodies and all the added bonuses that we're talking about here. So I hope that you have found this training to be helpful. If you decide that you really want a little bit more help and to work one-on-one with me, like I said, just comment, send me a message. You can find us on Facebook, reply to my emails, reach out, because I'm here to tell you that it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way, because I was there, and I've helped so many families that have felt hopeless. We can make a difference, but it really is understanding their nervous system really is the key. So Thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to talking to you. Have a great night.